You have been working in many different countries, among them Moscow, Tehran, Geneva, Dhaka, Bangkok, Washington, Brussels, and so on. So you have seen many, and you have been head of an institute in India dealing with education and learning and so on. When people come to our country, I always have this question to them. You have looked upon Sweden now since 2010. What would you say is a very good potential for being better in our country in a broad sense? Say it straight on, not polite. Come on.
Well, thank you very much. I think I will also stick to English, if you permit, because my Swedish is such that I will speak it, but you will not be able to understand it. So I'll stick to English. And thank you very much for this very interesting question. Well, if you were to ask me, I must confess in all seriousness that when I have come here, I have seen very many things that many other countries in the world can emulate and can follow. And I'm giving it to you straight on. There are things like, whether it is the question of the trust between the citizens and the government and the rulers and the ruled and so on and so forth, the whole concept of Jantelagen, as you call it, and the whole concept of I guess, fika, which I have understood, gives so much of an impetus to creativity and to innovation. So there's so much I could say about what different countries, and including my own, can learn, and we can partner and collaborate. But to come to your question and to respond to that, maybe one aspect that I could, and which is, again, I will say, is more typical of Stockholm than of Gothenburg. I must say that I feel much more relaxed and much more comfortable here, because people tend to smile much more in Gothenburg than they do in Stockholm. So I think in Stockholm there is maybe it's a capital city, maybe it's a center of power and authority. So people are very serious, and people have walls around them, and which is difficult to penetrate. Maybe a little bit of sort of, not having such strong walls, but having a little porous, so that there is better communication and there is better exchange, and that is what we actually need in a globalizing world, in sort of a global village as we come together. So maybe you ask me for one thing.
Very good, and you can understand we are happy to hear this. I have another question before you start, and that's about the same question concerning if you focus on education and relationship with other countries. What could we do better in that aspect?
I think in the field of education there have been some new initiatives that have been taken. Of course, I can very well understand the compulsions of the government, and what I'm referring to is introduction of tuition fees for non-EU or non-European citizens from this academic year. Maybe it was necessary, and I'm sure the government has had very strong reasons and very valid reasons for this. But possibly it could have been done in a better thought out manner, and it could have been planned a little better, so that the sort of 80% or 90% drop that has been seen in different universities in terms of people coming from non-EU countries, not EU actually, European countries, those who are not so that might not have been so staggering and so drastic, and it could have been sort of taken. And of course, because education, as I'm sure we are going to talk today and everyone is going to speak, it is an area where all of us need to work together, we need to collaborate. And maybe this instrument of education, how it can be used more effectively by Sweden for its own benefit, for its own advantage, which actually would be a win-win situation for both the sides. Because if students are coming here, they are studying here, they don't get any opportunity to be able to find jobs and they have to leave immediately. Now Sweden has invested so much of time, effort, energy, resources in more ways than one. And your population is not galloping at a very rapid pace. You need good minds, you need trained minds, you need creative minds. You can use some of those people to be here, and of course they would be very good citizens because they have lived there for 4 years, 5 years, they have come to know about the society.
Thank you very much. Perfect. And a big hand. And the floor is yours for some 20-25 minutes.
20-25 minutes. So what I think what I'm going to do is maybe speak for about 15 minutes or so, and that is what I discussed with the organizers, that I could speak for about 15 minutes and maybe have the last 5 or 7 or 10 minutes for some questions or comments from the floor, if that's all right. So I think what I could do possibly is, first of all, focus on the India of today, where we are, what are we doing, what is happening in India. Although I guess in general terms, you might be knowing a little bit about the Indian economy, the Indian political system, the Indian society. Maybe then I can address myself a little bit to relations between India and Sweden, and particularly focus on the issue of education that we are discussing today. So on India per se, I think it was mentioned earlier today, but India is a democracy. I think all of you are aware it is the largest democracy in the world, and it's been a democracy since its independence in 1947. So many other countries which became independent after the Second World War, many of them, actually most of them, went back into either military dictatorship or autocratic rule, and India has been about the only country which has managed to stay as a democracy. I think the accepted wisdom after the Second World War was that if there is a country, it's a large country which is extremely diverse in terms of ethnicities, in terms of languages, in terms of religion, and there is a great diversity in terms of standards of living. That is, there is a great difference between the rich and the poor. Then that country will not be able to survive as a democracy. And you have seen, whether it is in Asia, whether it is in Africa, whether it is in Latin America, this prediction has been proved correct, except for one country, and that is India. And India has been so large, it has been so huge. And my contention would be today, for your consideration, that it is the economic growth that we are seeing today in India is a direct result of the fact that it is a democracy. And while people around have been talking about that democracies might be able to give political liberties, political freedom, and political rights to people, but it is not able to provide economic well-being for the people, I think that is a misconception, and the example of India has proven that. So the first thing about India to note is that it is a democracy. Second thing I would say is that it is an extremely diverse country. And this diversity we have had, it's not a result of today or 50 years or 100 years, it's as a result of millennia of its history. Because people have come to India as traders, as preachers, as students, as seekers of truth, as invaders, as philosophers. They have come and most of them have stayed back in India. India has adopted them, adapted them, assimilated them, and India has taken what they had to offer, the best of what they had to offer, and they have adopted what India had to offer. So it has become a true melting pot of a large number of diverse influences. So I think it is truly said that India is not a nation, it is a civilization. Because it is layer upon layer upon layer of different experiences and different thoughts and ideas which has given the complexion and the texture to India what it is today. The third aspect that I would like to bring to your attention as far as India of today is concerned is its demography. The first was democracy, the second diversity, and the third D is demography. And although India is a country which is, in terms of populations, pretty large, 1.2 billion people, but in terms of demographics, more than 50% of the population, that is 600 million, it is below the age of 24 years. The median age of India today is 24 years. So when you see from the United States to China, from Europe to Japan, societies are graying, societies are growing old. Indian population is very young. It is a young nation, not only because it got its independence just about 65 years ago, but it's a young nation because of the number of people below the age of 65 years, which is the working age as I see in Sweden, is 95%. That means the bulk of the population will continue to be active and productive as we move forward. And the number of dependents for whom they will have to provide will be very small. I think it is a common quoted dictum that demography is destiny. There is empirical evidence to suggest, there is also theoretical evidence to suggest that those countries which are blessed with such a demography, their rate of growth and their rate of economic expansion is going to be extremely rapid. So India today is poised at the threshold of such an opportunity. We have seen such opportunities existing in other countries, whether it was the United States, whether it was China, but both of them have reached the curve, they are coming down. But for India, it is the beginning of that curve. And for the next 20, 30, 40 years, this demographics is going to stand to India's advantage. Very quickly, if I may sort of cover 2 or 3 other aspects. In demography, it is a great opportunity, but it's also a great challenge, because it is not a given that all this 800, 900 million people who are going to join the workforce, that they are going to be productive members of the economy. We have to work for that. And the first aspect, the first element that has to be provided, that is education, that is skills. Because otherwise, a demographic dividend or a demographic advantage, as we call it, can become a demographic nightmare. Even in the 80s, it was usually said that an increasing and expanding population is a great liability. Today, it is seen as a great asset. But it will be, if it is an asset, we have to provide everything for it, whether it is education, whether it is healthcare, or it is infrastructure in terms of roads, in terms of transportation, in terms of communication. So these are the challenges, and I'll come to that. 2 or 3 other very quick points about India. That is, it's a huge middle class. And the middle class is, again, as I said, they are educated, they are motivated, they are skilled, and they are willing to work hard for a better future, for a better life. The other aspect that you need to note about India of today is its entrepreneurial class. If you look at India's economy today, Notwithstanding the economic crisis, it has been growing very rapidly. It's registered a growth of about 8% over the last decade, every year, year on year. Notwithstanding the crisis of 2008, notwithstanding the crisis last year of Eurozone's sovereign debt crisis, it has been growing. I don't want to go into the figures, but all the figures would suggest, whether it is the foreign direct investment, whether it is foreign institutional investment, whether it is growth of exports, whether it is investment levels, whether it is savings levels, everything, whether it is in terms of remittances, inward remittances, the highest in the world. So the Indian economy is growing because there is a great confidence that the future of India and Indian economy is very bright, and that is because of the entrepreneurial class. In other countries, you have seen that the growth, whatever it might be, little more than what India, that has been provided for by state-supported, state-funded, public sector organizations and agencies. In India, if you see whether it is companies which are coming here in Sweden or companies which are active elsewhere in Europe and USA, it is basically the private sector. So I think it is the entrepreneurship. And that is what I want to suggest, that it is the democratic values which foster entrepreneurship. And that is why in Sweden you have, it is on the top of the table as far as innovation and creativity is concerned. Few words about Sweden-India relations. I'm very happy to say that relations are not only warm and cordial, but they have been growing at a very rapid pace, at a very dynamic pace. Whether we look at the exchange of political visits, and I can speak about my own time here of last little less than 2 years, we've had very significant incoming high-level visits, very significant outgoing high-level visits from Sweden to India. Also in terms of business delegations. Also in terms of economic contacts. I think the highest ever investments from India into Sweden have taken place over the last 1 year. The highest in terms of contracts, project contracts for Swedish companies in India have taken place over the last 1-2 years. If you look at the business confidence index of Swedish companies which are based in India, there are about 170, 180 Swedish companies, and about 97% of them say that they are going to expand their operations twice or thrice over the next 3 years. Their outlook of the business climate in India is very, very positive. If they have invested, let's say, 1.1 billion kroners in India over the last 2 years, over the next 2 years, what their forecast is 3.5 billion kroners. That means more than 3 times. Every month we have more than 2 Swedish companies being established in India. So I think this is, I just want to mention in general, in the area of education, I think there are great possibilities, whether it is at the level of primary, secondary education, or it is at the level of higher education. Because as Swedish companies go and establish there, they want to find skilled personnel. There has been discussion between the Indian government and the Swedish government to have a trilateral arrangement between the university, that is the academia, and the business, that is the large companies, whether it is Volvo, whether it is ABB, whether it is Atlas Copco, but you have from the business, and the third component would be the government itself. How to have training of this so that they can, these personnel can better meet the needs and requirements and demands of the business and industry. That is in terms of skills. I was in India recently and I have visited all these different companies who are based there, whether it was Volvo buses or it is ABB, and they are in their own way working on this. But I think on this trilateral aspect, we need to focus more, we need to put greater attention. I am reasonably hopeful that when we have the visit of Minister of Enterprise, Annie left to India in October, that this will be a very important subject of discussion. We had our Minister of Higher Education and Primary and Secondary Education who had come here recently. There were good discussions. We are hoping that in the not too distant future, Mr. Jan Björklund would also be able to visit India, and we would be able to have greater discussions on that score also. We are also looking at the visits of Anna Karim Bhatt, that is IT and energy. Also at the visit of Lena Ek, environment. Also at the visit of the Minister of Infrastructure. You must pardon, but I find it a little difficult to pronounce the name. Her first name is Katharina something else. Minister of Infrastructure. So she is also scheduled to visit India very soon. So I think this will give you an idea of the dynamism of the bilateral relationship. But education is a very significant component of this. At the level of schools, we have had a large number of visits. I know from Stockholm, a large number of schools have visited India. And I was told that even from Gothenburg, there have been some exchanges between the schools, which I think we will be hearing about their experiences. But at the higher education level, I can say that in Sweden, there are a number of universities which are active in this regard. Whether it is the University of Karlstad, or it is Blekinge Tekniska Högskolan, or it is KTH, or even Chalmers and Gothenburg University. They are active. India is appearing larger on the radar screen. It has not been so large on the radar screen. It is getting more focused and larger, but I think it needs to get even bigger and come in even sharper focus. And for that, we in the embassy would be very happy to support any initiatives. And this is one initiative of that nature, to be able to say what we can do together. And before I finish, let me convey my deepest appreciation to Resource Point and Mr. Ravinder Raj and his team for putting together this excellent group. I could not exactly make out what Mr. Gustafsson was when he had the show of hands, but I can see that it is a very diverse group. And of course, although the weather is bright and it is warm and sunny and it is just after lunch, I don't see anyone nodding off. That means it's a very interested group also. So thank you very much for being here, and as I said, I'll be happy to take any questions or comments that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you remember what we said. You are the one who put question. Right, stop. Then I want many others. Rai Ravindi on Resource Point. Come on.
So I have a question about the practical issues when you have exchange between India and Sweden. When you go there as a student, there's no visa category for enabling students to be there as a intern or for practicing something or working in India for more than 3 to 6 months. If that can be simplified, that would be very nice.
Yeah, I think that can be easily resolved. Let me say that students, when they go there to study, that is a different category. There are students who are going there. We are sending a large number of students, let me say, from Karlstad University to the Banaras Hindu University, and they go there for about 6 months to 1 year. They have training there, and it is sort of a joint degree that they offer. And I think if they are going there for not academic studies, but for training on the job, I think that can be easily sorted out. But I can tell people here that as far as getting visas, although you are in Gothenburg, not in Stockholm, but we make sure that if all the documentation is there and all the papers are there, it should not take more than 2 to 5 working days for the visa to be issued and to be sent back to you. And if there's anything, you are most welcome to get in touch with us.
Hej, vad heter du?
Marre Lange kommer från Logica.
Vad trevligt. Logica är vadå? Ett konsultföretag?
Ja, det är bland Sveriges största IT-företag.
IT-företag.
So we work for Logica, IT company, and we have around 5,000 people in India working for us. And I wonder, do you have any discussions with the Swedish authority to simplify and decrease the lead time of having work permit for Indian guys coming here to work?
I think this is a very valid question, and I know that in between there was a bit of a problem.
Yes.
There was a bit of a problem, and many companies, let us say Indian companies, large companies which are here, whether it is TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, or Infosys, they got in touch with us and they said, number one, it was taking a long time for them to get their work permits, and number two, the percentage of rejections had suddenly shot up also. So I took up the matter with Mr. Tobias Billström, the Minister of Migration and Asylum Policy. And he said, okay, leave it with me, send me specific cases, which we did. And then he came back and he said all those cases have been sorted out. There was some problem, some difficulty between the labor unions and some other authorities. Now I must confess that I am not very, this is a capitalist country, but the labor unions are very, very strong also, I see that. So I find it a little bit of difficult to understand, appreciate that. But then he said, now it has been sorted out, now I have made sure that the process will be very smooth. And since then, I have been in touch with my companies, whether it is TCS or the others who had complained, and they say it is done in about 4 to 6 weeks or whatever, which is a good time. They are happy with that time. Earlier it had become about 3 to 6 months.
Yes, that's true.
So if, what I can say is if you still continue to face problems, please get in touch with us at the embassy and we'll try to see what we can do.
Thank you.
We'll definitely try to help you.
We have time for one more question. I saw you first. Your name is?
My name is Agneta Envall, and
You come from?
I have a company, Provis AB, and we are a relocation company who works with Indian IT and engineering companies.
And it's your husband on your right side?
Yeah, that's right.
I saw
And
that.
I just wanted
Okay, go ahead,
I
please.
just wanted to say that regarding the work permit process, that we have been certified by the Migration Board to handle work permit applications for companies, and it takes 1 week after we send the application to the Migration Board to get a decision today. So it is a very, very fast process. To get the biometric card in India is the longest. It takes 2 to 3 weeks after that. But
Thank you. I think that sort of further emphasizes that things are by and large working, yes, working all right, yes.
Okay, good. Now we are finished. Thanks once again, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you. Very nice to meet you. And what you said about Gothenburg, you may tell also other people in our country. We will be extra happy. Except for no.
Thank you.
Good. Now I finish. And Mr. Ambassador, you had some words to finish with. Come on, please. And you stay here.
Well, thank you very much. What I thought I could possibly do, I have participated in several of the sessions that have taken place, and I found it fascinating and very interesting. And once again, I would like to add my words of gratitude, appreciation, and congratulations, of course, to the speakers and the audience here also. Maybe I could just add a couple of thoughts and ideas and maybe some factual information as to what has been discussed. Number one, in terms of the exchange that is taking place as far as schools are concerned, what you mentioned. Now, as I had said, maybe it is happening in Gothenburg for the first time, but as far as Stockholm is concerned, the embassy has been quite encouraging for schools to go to India, because I think that is important. They also do similar type of projects. They go and meet political leadership and studying what is happening on local government and local administration. We sent one school to one of the most premier institutions in Delhi, that is the modern school, and they participated in what is called the International Leadership and Development Project, and they were there for about 15 days. They were the guests of the local school. So there are these exchanges that are taking place, and I think, as it is said, the first step is always the most difficult step, and the first step has been taken. And I think you are you are blazing a trail, and there will be many more to come. I think what is also important is that when we are talking about cultural exchanges, there should also be people coming from the other side. And I'm happy to say that in Stockholm, they will be coming in June and July. And I think it is best for both sides, because I guess from here people can go when it is winter here and it is plus 22 and blue sunny skies in Delhi and other places. It's nice. And this time when it is plus 45 in India, they can come here at plus 16 or 18 or whatever it is. So I think this is happening. Second thing, on the school front, because I come from the higher education country, on the school front, there's this agency, there's a school organization known as Kunskapsskolan. They are establishing a school in India. And they are establishing a school in India as a joint venture project. And I have been to their, and we help them to identify who would be the partner. And they are basically using the curriculum here, but of course, modulating it to the Indian needs and requirements. So I would say that there is information, there is interest, but still a lot more needs to be done. I remember last weekend I was at a conference in Malay. Is my pronunciation correct? Malay. It's near Angelholm. It is. Okay. Malay. Okay. This is perfect. Yeah, they said it is Danish pronunciation, so I can be excused by all the students. If I'm slaughtering the word, that's not the intention. So, and when I was talking on, I was one of the speakers on India, EU-India, Sweden relations in future, and one of the participants, he asked me, that this strong transatlantic partnership, EU and America. Now, what does Europe need to do to make the EU-India partnership equally strong?
Interesting.
Yes, interesting. And I think this is because I think Europe also feels that maybe the United States is not exactly losing interest, but it is focusing a little more on Asia, focusing a little more on India. And my response was, I think Europe needs to do what the United States is doing as far as India is concerned. Focus more, take it more seriously, invest more time, energy and effort. And this I speak about the macro level. And I think this responds a little bit to what you said in terms of how we are going forward, that there is not that realization. But I think in terms of realization, there is also, I mentioned Karlstad University. There are so many students who go to the Banaras Hindu University, and they study for one semester, for 1 year. Actually, they have taken an old palace in Banaras. They have renovated it. They have local cooks who cook for the students, and it is their own sort of property. They have done that. We have about 250 Indian students studying at Blekinge Tekniska Högskolan. there are large number of Indian students. So, I think the utility of maybe a seminar like this is also that we share information. We have had very interesting, useful information that I have benefited from. And I think there is this great possibility and great realization. The last word on this education fees, I think every challenge gets converted into an opportunity. Universities are now looking at entering into MOUs, agreements with Indian universities, because if you have an MOU, then you do not need to pay tuition fees when students come from there and study here, and vice versa. So there is great interest amongst Swedish universities to enter into agreements with Indian universities. So this is happening. So I think the future looks, even if I, typically low-key Swedish expression, has great potential.
Thank you. Stay here, please. Now I would like everybody who has been here giving a speech and so on, and then you will get a flower of this gentleman here. Come on, please.
Thank you very much.
Till mig.
Nu kommer vi avsluta med ett mingel sidan om. Ska det bara vara dit? In English, a mingle is to join together and at leisure talk to each other. So you're welcome to go to the next room.